All right, so let's get on to tonight's demo, which, as I mentioned, is the anemone. All right, so it's not the water anemone, it's the flower anemone. And we're going to be, it's from the poppy family, as I said, and I'm going to go ahead and get overhead and get started, and we'll start putting our colors out. All right, so this is what I'm going to be sharing with you. And as you can see, the strokes are not difficult to do, but the blending is a little bit different from what we would normally do in a one-stroke brush load. So I just want to share with you that these have a darker outside color, and then the inside is light. And then it helps that really dark center to pop with that dark purple. So we're going to be working on that. But first we want to get our stems in place, and then I'm going to share with you the different colorways and how we get those strokes down. Okay. So we're not working with a lot of different colors today. I've got some Juneberry I'm going to put out. And some dioxazine purple. So this is our darker purple. And then some wicker white. And then finally, to go with our color, finally to go with the green for the stems, we're going to be using citrus green, and I'm going to be adding in or side loading some of the Juneberry to get the color for the stems, okay? So brush wise, we're going to start with a 10 flat. Okay, so this is a 10, and I'm going to get that damp. And oh, I also need some floating medium because I am on paper. I'm working on some 80-pound Strathmore toned gray sketch paper, which has a very smooth finish, makes it really nice for painting on. And let's shove this over just a little here. Okay, so let's flatten these colors out, and I'm going to go ahead and load with my citrus green. And let's come down closer. There we go. All right. And then I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to, let's just grab, because I don't, well, let's do it on this side. So I want to side stroke some of this Juneberry and work it in. And this Juneberry is going to turn a little bit of a brown color with red tones. All right, get some more citrus green and work Juneberry into 1/2 of that brush. Okay. All right, so let me get some floating medium on my brush, work that in, and I think we're ready to go. And occasionally, as I'm doing these leaves, I'm going to side load some white so we can get some brighter colors, because we want to have darker stems and then bring some of those leaves out with some brightness with some white on that. Okay, so let's come first here, and we're going to do our stems. So we've got one that goes up to the center, and a little bit of a curve like that. And then we're going to have another that comes to the right here. And then we'll have this guy. Let's bring it over a little bit, and we'll give him some space because he's got quite a large face to work with. Okay. All right. So now same colors. And like I said, I'm going to get some white in with that citrus green. Okay. And what I want to do is we're going to have these leaves kind of are lacy. All right. So we have, they kind of come out of like a collar just below the head of the flower. Oops. No, I did that right. Okay. No, I didn't. I went and tossed up my colors there. Sorry. 1 second. And side load white. So still working with the same citrus green and Juneberry, and then side load white. So what we want to do to get these lacy look is I want to come down here, and they're just little short chisel strokes layered. Let's come down and out here, and I'm just overlapping them. I want a little more green on that. than I have. All right, so let's bring these. And then get a little more of that white. Okay, so just little lacy short strokes. And so up here we're going to have, oops, let's do these first. I'm going to jump the gun there. And go through the middle so that you don't leave that stem showing, because like I said, they're lacy looking and they're full. Okay, like that. So I'm going to keep working on these. We'll come through here, little short chisel, almost like tapping that brush just on the chisel edge. Okay. All right, so those are the leaves. Let's do some more on the other two. Get a little more color on my brush here. So we'll come up here, create that little collar right there. So this one's going to be in the back. Okay. It's better if you go from the tip. And I got a little too much white on there. Okay, and then here. And then on this one. And here, let's put this back one coming down like that. So we'll do the back first. Get a little bit of white on there. I want some of that dark showing, so it's getting lost. So I'm going to tap it back in there. And as this dries, that white is blending with the green and muting a little bit. So it starts out looking really bright, but by the time it dries, it's softer. Okay. So get some of that Juneberry in there as well. And then pull that back. There we go. All right, so that's our stems and leaves, right? They're just lacy little taps of the brush, right? So now we want to move up to a bigger brush. And I've got a 16 flat here. And let's start with our back center one, which is going to be the Juneberry with white. And so it's a softer, lighter color of the Juneberry with the white blended in the center. So I want to load my whole brush first with the Juneberry. And then I'm going to come right over here and work white into 1/2, or maybe not even that, just about 1/3 of the brush. Okay, so it's still Juneberry, and then that lighter pink color. Okay, So I'm letting, I don't want any white in there. I just want a softer pink. All right. So let's come up here and do our back stroke petals, or back petals stroked. All right, so this is the top of the stem, and so the bottom leaf petal, let's put that in first. So you want pressure on the flat of the brush, and these are smooth strokes. All right, so not a lot of wiggling, and you stand up to the center. So the center is going to be right in here, and that lines up with the top of my stem. Okay, so now let's come up here. Good amount of pressure on the flat of the brush, nice smooth strokes. Okay, and then here we'll overlap those. Oops. And stand that in. Need a little bit of medium, getting a little bit dry. See how that center's got a glow in there though? So, and I'm leaving a hole, just like you would do for a cabbage rose, leaving some space for the second layer of petals. Okay, so now what we want to do is put in that second layer. Let's come right in here. We're going to overlap our petals, so don't start in the same place that you stopped and started the first layer, right? I'm going over those first stop and starts of the skirt in the back. Okay. And we want to come at a bit of an angle, let it tuck in and out, and stand up to the center. And then we'll finish right here. There we go. All right, so that's got to dry. And I'm going to go ahead and clean my brush. And we're going to work on this lighter pink one. So that one is actually all white. All right, and then I'm going to start working in some of that Juneberry to get that lighter pink shade. I've got a little bit too much water in my brush, so let's wipe that off and press it on the paper towel, get that out. And load that again. So it's a very soft pink. And then I'm going to come and side stroke some strong white on that outside edge. Okay, so this is our lighter color. We're going to give this a bit of a tilt, and it's kind of tipping back, so you're going to see the front underside of the petals. So our center is going to be right here. All right, so can you see that white outer edge? It's pink, very, very soft, pale pink. Okay. Now before I put this back petal on, I want to put this side petal here. So it's coming out and around and standing up. And then I can come right here and layer that one over the top. So I'm going to work in just a little bit more pink into that brush load, and then just side stroke that strong white. Okay, so we want to come right through here and bring that in. Now this front, we want to turn the brush so that the light color is up, and then lay it back down. Oops, I lost my color here. Do that again. We want to turn it up and then roll it back down. We'll lay in some white there. I think, let's see, we want to come right through here and then stand that up. And we'll put a little bit of a tip right in there. Okay, now I'm going to touch that up a bit after I put my center in, but I think that's good right there. All right, now, these aren't hard strokes, guys. They're nice and smooth with just lots of pressure. So, you know, half sprung pressure. We don't want to go too hard, but now I'm going to go switch to the darker color. So this is dioxazine purple, loading with all dioxazine purple for you purple lovers out there. And then I'm going to go grab some white on the corner and we're going to work that in. So lots of dioxazine, and then you want that lighter shade. Now, I wasn't real happy with, I didn't have that, bring that light shade out far enough on this pink one. You can see some of that glow back in there, so you're seeing the petals differentiated, but I want to push this lighter color more across my brush and keep a darker edge, I think, for this, okay? Because dioxazine is such a strong color. All right, and so I'm going to put a little bit of medium on there, and then we're ready to go for that. So similar to our first one, I'm going to go ahead and put my lower petals in first, just so I know where they're going to hit that stem. And stand it up, overlapping them. Okay, now I can come and do my back petal, upper back petals. Nice and smooth, lots of pressure. Now again, that light color didn't go out far enough, so I'm going to twist my brush slightly to the lighter color and shove that light color over to the other side of the brush, and I don't have to bother reloading. And see how that made that light color move out more towards the edge. There we go, and stand that up. All right, so that finishes the first layer. Then I'm going to get just a little more white, work that in. I want to brighten up that center just a little bit more, keeping that dark outer edge. Right, and then we're going to come and do our layer for our inner petals. Okay. All right, so that'll work. I want to bring this one out a little more and slide that in. There we go. All right, so now we're ready to work on our centers. And they all have the same center, which is a dark purple with a touch of light. But we're first just going to start with a 1/4 inch scruffy and just dioxazine purple. Okay. And so let's come down so you can see these centers a little better. All right, and we're going to just pounce in that center. I want that outside edge to be soft. Okay. Same here. And then on this one, I'm going to come right against that edge. There we go. All right, so we're keeping that flat front edge right there. All right, now done with that, and I want to come and get my script liner, and we need inky dioxazine purple. And let's bring this out here. So water with the 2 script liner, can get some more. And you let that go all the way up the bristles of the brush, giving it a twist as you come out. You want these green handled brushes, work so much better for loading for curlicues and fine tip work because they have a much nicer point. And then you can just give it a little test right here and see if it's not watery or watery enough. There we go. That's the look I'm going for, right? This was a little too thin, added a little heavier paint, and I get a nice stroke for my stamens. Okay. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go and pull out just the start of a skirt of stamens coming out. Okay. Turn your flower so that you can get a nice alignment to the center the way you want it to be instead of trying to force your arm. Okay. Now that I have that in, I'm going to add some white to that brush and still twist to come out to a fine tip. All right, and now we're going to pull out, oops, get some more white. There we go. You want it really thin, lacy. So it takes a little patience to get that brush load corrected. And these short little strokes coming out, you go in different directions so that it makes the center look aimed, in this case, flat, right? Now with this next one, get a little bit of water in there, and let's come get the white. Okay. And we're going to come out. So on this purple background, you don't want that dioxazine in there. You want just the white. Creating that lacy center. Okay. All right, and then on this one, we want to come back to more of the purple. So almost like a lavender blend on the brush against that white background. Just with the tip of the brush. All right, and then definitely want some white now coming up from below into that darker purple center. So that makes it look more tipped. like it's tipped back away from you. All right, now the last thing we want to do on these is all the little pollen dots around the outside edge. And so you can do this with, I want to show you both. So you can do it with the Kiss tool, all right? And you can dip into the light color. Actually, it should be purple, not white. Let's start with that. So dip into the dioxazine, and you can come here and just dot around that edge. And you occasionally want to pick up some white so that it shows with that purple, right? But I like, in this case, not always, but in this case, I prefer to do the liner with both colors. So I'm going to get the purple, and then I'm going to streak through the white. And then you're going to take your pinky and put it down so it hits the paper, or hits the surface, and then slowly lower that tip until it just taps and creates that both colors coming off of there. And I just think it looks a little softer and a little less perfect in this case. All right, so purple, streak through white, and tap. And as long as you're letting your pinky hit at the same level as the tip of your brush, it won't go any further and create folds or bumps or anything, okay? So purple, and streak through white, and we'll do the same thing here. You have to be careful with the wet paint though. You tap your fingernail into it. All right, so see how I'm keeping that outer edge of that pollen and letting all those little stamen stems show, right? So you've got the edge of the center and then the stamen stems and then the pollen dots. All right, now here I'm going to go with mostly dioxazine on the back side because it's so white. But then we want to streak through that white for these ones that are sticking up in the front. And then you can tap a few of those back here too. Okay. Now to finish this, we need to liven up that center a little bit. So I'm going to grab a 6 flat. All right, because it's dark and there's no character to it, right? So grab a 6 flat, and I'm going to load that with dioxazine, and then I'm going to come and side stroke some of this white. All right, so we've got a little lighter blend on here. And what we're going to do with that is we're going to come right in here, kind of tip into that white edge. And we'll do a little half circle there. A little half circle there. Need a little bit more dark on the one edge so that it blends into that center. There we go. And then here, we'll do just a little streak through there like that. Okay, now once you've got this all done, you can come make any adjustments that you like. Like I'm looking at these stems, they're looking a little weak. So let me come back maybe to my 6 flat with some citrus green and then side stroke some of that Juneberry. And we can come right in here And pull some of that. Okay. You can even get a little bit of white. Right, and just kind of streak a little bit of that light color. Make these look a little more rounded if they've got some highlights on them. There. Okay. So it's really all about the flower, but the leaves I thought were really important to understand how to make those. So if you put them in a bouquet or something, have some of those pretty lacy leaves sticking out. It'll look very nice, combining them together. And so there you have, right, the anemones. And I hope you enjoyed that little demonstration.